The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Orla of the Viridian Collective rose to address the assembly. Her crystalline features reflected the concern shared by representatives from 1,000 worlds. "We must discuss the situation with human Adam Clark," she announced, her voice resonating through translation matrices across the vast hall. A ripple of recognition passed through the chamber. Every species present knew that name. It had started simply enough, 3 standard cycles ago. Adam, a maintenance engineer aboard the orbital station Kepler-9, had been completing routine repairs in the lower cargo bays when he heard it. A sound that transcended species and language. A child's cry. Most species in the galaxy would have investigated cautiously. The Viridian would have called security. The militant Korthax would have approached with weapons drawn. The logical Synthari would have first analyzed potential threats. Adam had simply followed the sound. He found the cub wedged between 2 cargo containers, its iridescent fur matted with fear scent. A Velkarian juvenile, one of the galaxy's apex predators. Adult Velkarians stood 3 meters tall, possessed retractable claws that could shred titanium, and had reflexes fast enough to catch plasma bolts mid-flight. Their bite force could crush starship hull plating. This cub was perhaps 2 standard years old, barely reaching Adam's knee, trembling and alone. "Hey there, little one," Adam had said softly, crouching down. "You lost?" The cub had growled, an attempt at intimidation that came out as more of a squeak, its ears flattened against its skull, showing both fear and the instinct to appear dangerous. Every species in the galaxy knew to avoid Velkarian young. Their parents were notoriously protective, and even cubs possessed claws sharp enough to cause serious injury. Approach protocols required sedation teams and armored mediators. Adam had taken off his jacket and sat down cross-legged on the cold deck plating. "I'm not gonna hurt you," he'd said, keeping his voice calm and level. "But you look cold and scared. Want to come here?" He'd waited. 15 minutes turned into 30. Station security had pinged his comm twice, but he'd silenced it. The cub's breathing had gradually slowed from panicked gasps to something more measured. Then, tentatively, it had crept forward. Adam had wrapped his jacket around the shivering cub, careful to avoid the claws. The juvenile had buried its face against his chest, and he'd felt the rapid drumming of its triple-chambered heart begin to slow. "There we go," he'd murmured. "Let's find your parents, okay?" What happened next became the most watched footage in galactic history. Adam had carried the cub through the station for 4 hours, speaking softly to it, occasionally stopping to let it drink water or rest. He'd refused to hand it over to security, insisting that the little guy's been through enough without being poked and prodded by strangers. When they'd finally located the parents, a Velkarian diplomatic delegation frantic with worry after their cub had wandered away, the encounter should have been disastrous. Velkarian parents in distress were known to attack first and ask questions never. Instead, the mother had frozen at the sight of her offspring sleeping peacefully in the human's arms. "He just wanted his parents," Adam had said simply, gently transferring the cub. "He's a brave little guy. Didn't cry once after we found each other." The father, a decorated warrior whose name translated to "renders stars asunder," had stared at this soft-skinned human who stood barely chest-height to him. A human who had done what no other species would dare, approached a predator's cub with nothing but kindness. "You have given us back our heart," the mother had said, her voice thick with emotion. "We are forever in your debt, Adam Clark of Earth." That should have been the end of it. But the Velkarians talked. They told the story at every port, every station, every diplomatic gathering. They told of the human who saw only a frightened child, not a dangerous predator, who sat on a cold floor for half an hour earning trust, who carried their most precious treasure through corridors like it was the most natural thing in the galaxy. Then other incidents occurred. A Korthax juvenile trapped in a collapsed tunnel. Adam had crawled in and talked her through the fear until rescue arrived. A Synthari fledgling separated from its collective consciousness. Adam had sat with it for hours, providing what comfort a warm-blooded being could offer to a crystalline child who'd never known loneliness before. A Draconid hatchling stuck in a ventilation system. Adam had spent 6 hours coaxing it down with patience and bad jokes. Each time he'd shrugged off the gratitude. "They're just kids," he'd say. "Kids need help sometimes." Now, Ambassador Orla addressed the council with a datapad displaying statistics that seemed impossible. "In the past cycle alone," she reported, 4,732 emergency contact registrations have been filed listing human Adam Clark as the designated guardian should primary caregivers become unavailable. This number includes representatives from 143 different species, many of whom are traditionally rivals or even enemies of one another. A Korthax general stood, his battle-scarred carapace gleaming. "My granddaughter insists on it. She says the human makes her feel safe." A Synthari node speaker shimmered. "Our younglings have incorporated his designation into their base protocols. They consider him Pack." Orla continued. "Station Kepler 9 reports that children of every species now actively seek out human Adam during facility tours. He has unknowingly become the most trusted individual in documented galactic history." "Is this a human infiltration strategy?" someone asked nervously. "No," said Render Stars Asunder, now attending as the Velkarian representative. "It is simpler and more profound. Humans see children, all children, as worthy of protection and kindness. Not as future threats or genetic investments, but as beings deserving of care simply because they are young and vulnerable." He paused, his fearsome countenance softening. "My cub still speaks of the warm, soft one who made her feel brave. She asks when she can see him again." Orla looked across the assembly. "The question before us is not whether this is appropriate, but whether we should recognize what human Adam Clark has accomplished. He has created the galaxy's first truly universal trust network, built not on treaties or trade, but on the simple act of being kind to someone else's child." The vote was unanimous. 3 days later, Adam received an official council notification on his datapad. He was now registered as the Galactic Emergency Contact for Juveniles, a position that had never existed before and was created specifically for him. He read it twice, scratched his head, and sent back a single-line response. "Does this mean I need to update my insurance?" But when his shift ended that evening, there was a Velkarian cub waiting outside his quarters with her parents, holding a drawing she'd made. It showed a stick figure human holding hands with creatures from a dozen different species. At the bottom, in careful, universal script, it read, "Thank you for finding me. You are my hero." Adam knelt down to the cub's level and smiled. "Hey there, little one. How about you show me what else you've been drawing?" And in that moment, the galaxy understood. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their adaptability, their stubbornness, or their innovation. It was their capacity to see a frightened child and simply care. ND